is breaking news.
Welcome to our special combined coverage of President Obama's visit to the Coachella Valley on KESQ News Channel 3 and CBS Local 2. I'm Jeff Stahl.
Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Daniels. We are live at the Palm Springs International Airport as we await the president's departure to Washington. CBS Local 2's Tom Tucker is anchoring our coverage in Palm Springs. And Tom, what can you tell us?
Good afternoon, Jennifer and Jeff. The presidential motorcade has just arrived here at the Palm Springs International Airport, where, as you can see behind me here, Air Force One is standing by with the engines already fired up, ready for the president to get on board. I'm going to walk out of the frame here to give you a better look at Air Force One as it sits here on the tarmac, ready for the president's arrival. And here the president's limousine, as you can see, has just pulled up in front of the steps with President Barack Obama sitting in the back of the vehicle and poised to get out, to get on board Air Force One for a departure time, which should be around 2 o'clock here this afternoon. Originally, the departure was set for 1 o'clock today, but it was Saturday that we received notice from the presidential staff that they were going to push the departure back by an hour, although no official reason was given for that pushed back departure. However, we did receive word this morning that the president was playing golf at the Sunnylands estate once again. So President Obama taking advantage of this beautiful weather here in the Coachella Valley to enjoy another session of golf with three of his childhood friends from his high school days in Hawaii. And it appears as though the president is now stepping out of the vehicle. That is not him on our side of the vehicle. That could be one of the president's high school friends from Hawaii. You may have just heard one of the members of the media calling out Mr. President. There's a pretty good media contingent on hand here as the president makes his way up the steps, and we expect, here he goes, turning around with a wave before getting on board the modified 747 for the flight back to Andrews Air Force Base. The president is concluding a 4-day visit here to the Coachella Valley, which began on Friday with a casual, relaxed dinner at the Sunnylands estate with King Abduliah II of Jordan. We're told the two talked about the crisis in Syria, and they also talked about a framework for possible peace talks between Israel and the Palestinians. And it was shortly after that meeting that the president announced that he would push for more than $1 billion in guaranteed loans to help the Syrian people as they come to his country in Jordan, as they come to King Abdullah's country in Jordan. And on Saturday, we're also told that the president signed 2 bills into law, one raising the nation's debt limit and the other bill restoring the full cost of living benefits for military retirees. And then once all the work was out of the way, it was time for some rest and relaxation. 3 of the president's friends joined him for a round of golf on 9 holes at the Sunnylands estate. And then on Sunday, the foursome played around at Porcupine Creek and Rancho Mirage. Of course, that's the course owned by Oracle co-founder and Obama supporter Larry Ellison. It was also reported that the president would use some of the downtime to catch up on some of his favorite television programs, but we have not been able to confirm that that actually took place. So again, today concludes the president's visit to California, which also included a stop in Fresno on Friday, where the president met with California Governor Jerry Brown and Central California farmers to talk about California's severe drought conditions. And there the president announced $160 million in federal aid for drought relief here in the Golden State. So the motorcade, as you probably can see right now, is slowly making its way away from Air Force One as the doors on board the plane close, with the president now on board. And it appears as though staff members and other members of the presidential delegation are still boarding the plane at the back door of the 747. Again, we expect the flight today to take roughly 4 hours back to Washington, D.C., where the president will head back to the White House, where he will presumably reunite with his family. First Lady Michelle Obama and his daughters, we understand they took a weekend of skiing in Aspen, Colorado. And then tomorrow in Washington, the president is scheduled to give a speech on the U.S. economy. And Wednesday, he will have a 1-day summit in Toluca, Mexico, with Mexican and Canadian leaders.
And Tom, this is Jeff Stahl back here at the station. Boy, a change of pace from when he flew in Friday evening. Jennifer and I talking about it, the rapid pace at which this is a well choreographed execution going on out here where the vehicles pull up.
Pull in, drop him off, and then get him on the plane and close up. Now, we're curious if they're going to take off as quickly as they dropped him off, though. I'm not sure. These vans that are pulling up, I know that they're not getting on the plane with
Sure.
him, but it is quick moving what they're doing.
Yeah, a lot faster than on Friday night, huh, Tom?
Well, certainly the case, Jeff and Jennifer. There are still a number of people getting on board the back of the plane. It looked like there was a contingent of maybe about, maybe 80 additional staff members and others on board this flight. And it looks like they have all but just about gotten on board the plane. And I think we'll have the closure of that back door of Air Force One, that back entryway. That should be closed here probably within 1 minute. Of course, as you might imagine, a heavy security presence out here today as well. Local police, the State Highway Patrol, probably certainly Secret Service, and maybe other law enforcement officers and agents that we may not even be entirely aware of have certainly surrounded the airport here. As you both know, over the weekend we had some interesting happenings security-wise. We were told that 7 planes flew over the no-fly zone that was in place over the Sunnylands estate. In those cases, F-16s were scrambled to chase those planes out of the area, and those 7 pilots will face penalties anywhere from a fine to possibly even having their licenses revoked. So I'm sure that was kind of a cause for interesting moments over the weekend when that occurred, Jeff and Jennifer.
Yeah, now this, again, one of 2 aircraft flown by the Presidential Airlift Group. We know this as Air Force One. Some people still don't know there's actually 2 highly modified 747s that act as Air Force One. Tail number is 28,000, the other's tail number 29,000, and then when the President is aboard either of those specially modified 747 aircraft, that aircraft then becomes Air Force One. It's operated by the Air Mobility Command's 89th Airlift Wing, based out of the Joint Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland. And it's quite the impressive sight to see sitting on the tarmac here in Palm Springs.
Beautiful backdrop with San Jacinto there. And Tom, I'm sure this is putting you on the spot and something you likely don't know the answer to right now, but how quickly can we expect air traffic to resume in Palm Springs after the president takes off?
You know what, Jennifer, I have not yet been informed of that information, but from what I understand, my best shot at that would be probably sometime within an hour after this plane takes off, although there have been commercial flights that have been taking place here throughout the day. So perhaps I could talk with one of the officials out here to get final confirmation on that question. A couple other interesting tidbits regarding President Obama and his travel. He's one of the most traveled presidents since Lyndon Johnson, second only to President George H.W. Bush. And the National Taxpayers Union Foundation says or has calculated that the duration of an average trip for the president lasts about 3.8 days. So the trip we saw here to California is certainly in line with that at 4 days. Interestingly, also, the Taxpayers Union Foundation says the cost of operating Air Force One is $180,000 an hour. So presidential travel certainly is not inexpensive.
Yeah.
And of course, the long-distance travel for the president always does take place on Air Force One. Jeff or Jen, it sounded like you had a comment.
Oh, I was just reacting to what you'd said about the cost. It seems like a lot of money, but again, he is the president, and he was greeted, you'll remember, when he flew into town by delegation. Of course, Congressman Raul Ruiz, Rancho Mirage Mayor Richard Kite, Jeff L. Gruby, the chairman of the Agua Caliente Band of Cahuilla Indians, also Mayor Pro Tem Rick Hutchinson of Palm Springs. No group there to send him on this way, but that, I guess, is traditional. They say he's ready to go.
He's ready to go home. Now, it'll also be exciting for anyone that is at home watching now, that they can go outside and see after they see the jet take off, be able to see Air Force One flying overhead over the skies in Palm Springs.
Jeff and Jennifer, if you can hear me, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but as you may have heard, the engine just fired up and Air Force One is now rolling on the tarmac and will soon depart our view. I'll stop talking and let you listen to the sounds of this amazing aircraft.
Indeed, he arrived, wheels down 6:58 Friday evening. It is 1:57 on this Monday afternoon, and he is moving again.
Right in that time frame.
A lot of sand blowing across the tarmac there, and it is an interesting sight.
Yes, it is an interesting sight.
Do we know if he's taxiing, Tom? Can we tell? Is he going to taxi to take off up to the west, or is he going to? Do we know yet if he's going to taxi down the runway, then take off over Cathedral City? Do we know yet?
You know, Jeff, as you probably know, and as you might imagine, anytime the president travels, they're not always real forthcoming with some of this type of information. We haven't heard yet exactly which direction he will be taking off. Last time when he was here back in June for the summit with President Xi Jinping, if I recall correctly, I think the plane took off mostly in a northeasterly direction and seemed to fly at a very low altitude after taking off from the airport. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that same kind of a low-level trajectory today with Air Force One.
It is quite an impressive sight if you are on the ground looking up and knowing that's our president flying overhead.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's glorious. Anytime Air Force One comes here to the desert, as you guys know and as you've experienced yourselves, it is an amazing sight, and it certainly generates a lot of buzz. When we pulled up here to the airport probably about 45 minutes ago, there was still a pretty good gathering of citizens lining the gates around the airport just to catch a glimpse of this beautiful airplane.
You're absolutely right. And of course, social media has been booming with Facebook pictures, people showing themselves standing in front of Air Force One.
Yeah, not every day you get to take a picture with yourself in front of that big, beautiful airplane. I think it's 206 feet in length, Air Force One, powered by those 4 huge General Electric engines. And if he's at the end of the runway, we'll probably hear him rev up pretty quick, unless he's taxiing. I know that we would normally want to turn the camera around, but there's a big...
there's a building in the way.
A building between you and the airplane right now. Is that it, Tom?
Yes, this is correct. I'm on a stage here for the media, and we're kind of contained within this stage, if you will. I'm going to step out of frame. My photographer, Christopher Flicker, just panned right. It sounds as though we hear the engines at full bore, and we will probably catch maybe a glimpse of Air Force One as it roars down the runway. Let's take a look. Let's take a listen. Here you go.
There you go, 56,700 pounds of thrust power out of each one of those 4 engines. That Boeing 747. There's 4 of them on board. It's a 231-foot long aircraft.
And he's off.
Yeah, about the size of a city block, the length of a city block, Jeff.
And
you're exactly right.
There you go, Air Force One off the ground, wheels up at 2 o'clock here from Palm Springs, California.
I'll tell you what, they do keep a tight schedule. They said 2 o'clock.
They meant it.
That's right. They get the highest ranking, I would say, as far as airlines go.
About 80 degrees here in the desert. As he wings his way out of the desert, it's in the low 30s back in Washington.
50 degrees cooler where he's headed.
He'll be chilly indeed. Any final thoughts, Tom?
Nothing in particular, Jeff, other than to say it seemed as though this presidential visit here in the desert went off very smoothly, except for maybe some of those security scares over the weekend with those errant pilots flying in the protected airspace over the Sunnylands estate. But other than that, it seems as though everything went according to plan. I'm sure the president and his friends enjoyed the beautiful weather, maybe some great golf on the local courses, and also conducting what sounds to be a productive meeting with King Abdullah II of Jordan on Friday night.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so much, Tom.
And now he can get back to business in Washington, and people around the desert can get back to all the normal roads and ways we get around town.
Soon.
They should be opening soon, and of course that does it for us here now. Thank you for joining us on this special report, the President Obama's visit to the Coachella Valley, here on CBS Local 2 and KESQ News Channel 3.
We'll be back this evening at 5 on News Channel 3 and 5:30 on CBS Local 2 with a complete wrap of the President's visit. Have a great afternoon.
You've been watching breaking news coverage from the combined resources of CBS Local 2 News and News Channel 3. For continuing updates, log on to KESQ.com or CBSLocal2.com.